Hey, 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 hey! Running a little late today. Had to get my coffee. Look, it says oat on it. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? How y'all doing out there? What happened this week? I did a video for the Origin Deluxe 55. There it is. Put it up, I think it was last Tuesday. This pedal is meant to recreate and capture the tones of mid-50s tweed amplifiers. And you can actually use it like a preamp right into a DAW or, straight into a power amp or something, neutral power amp in the cabinet. Or you can use it in front of an amp. It's got that sort of signature voicing switch there that, excuse me, little hiccup things happening. Signature voicing switch that Origin does on their pedals to kind of voice it into different types of inputs. Which is pretty nice. So you can run it into, a Fender amplifier or a Marshall amplifier or some facsimile thereof. Or straight into, like I say, power amp or DAW. And they also came out with a nice line of IRs recently. And some of them are tweed IRs that are sort of meant to be used with that pedal. And yeah, it's pretty good. They're good sounding. I found it very, took me 1 minute to get a good sound. I just pulled up a 57 and a 160, I think I used on the channel. And it was just like a dark 57 and balanced 160 or something. And I was like, well, that sounds good. Let's just use that. And so that's what's on the channel in Logic for that video when I'm using the pedal direct. Really good sounding pedal. So neat way to go about it, you know. I kind of like the idea of doing, the modeling in the analog world and just having one amp sort of, I guess it's, somebody commented on my video. They said this was already sort of done by Tech 21 many years ago. Of course it was, the Liverpool and the different pedals that they made that are kind of the SansAmp family to do different types of amplifiers. Yeah, sure, of course, but just there's not that many of them out there that they're doing that kind of thing. They sort of tackling full amp channels or sounds, full amplifiers in like one pedal to kind of send to a DAW or whatever. So anyway, so it's sort of unique, I guess. What else are we talking about here in the chat? Let's see. Earl's recommending the Tonex firmware update. I guess I better do that. I haven't done it yet. Haven't checked it out yet. But yeah, I've known they were going to do it for a while. I was over there at IK and they were talking about how they'd eked out more power out of the DSP and stuff like that, and we're able to integrate some effects with Tonex and stuff, and that's pretty cool. So if you've got a Tonex, check it out. I've got to check it out still. Just haven't had time. Yeah. Let's see. What else? What else are you guys talking about in the chat here? Zach Wild's Valhalla Java Odenforce blend of Death Wish coffee. That sounds good. I need my own coffee blend. How do I get in on that? I could get a cool coffee and promote the hell out of that on this show. Why not? Yeah. Who else here we got here? We got Les. We got Bruce. We got 3J Music. We got Gordon. A few new faces in here, I think. Some names I haven't heard before, or at least I'm ignorant about. Pete, love your show, says Weezin Danger. Do you own a Valley Arts guitar? No, but I'm going way back. I mean, I had a friend with one. My old friend Keith, who I haven't seen in many years, had one. It was the Larry Carlton model, actually, which was like, I think, I'm remembering it. It was a 24 fret, 24 fret, 2P90, telly looking thing, short scale, but bolt on neck, kind of a cream finish, creamy white, trans white, with, 2P90s and a Tunematic. I remember that guitar. Remember, anybody remember that kind of early 90s Larry Carlton Valley Arts thing? Cool. It was a cool guitar, I remember. And he got one and had it for a while, so I got to play that a little bit. Saw some in Japan. Original, the full-on Steve Lukather kind of cherry sunburst Floyd Rose EMG's situation, gold hardware, all that stuff. Very expensive. It was like really pricey, and it was at the Ochanomizu, can't remember the store, but it was in Ochanomizu in Tokyo, and I checked it out. And who was it that had told me? There was somebody while I was over there that was really into them. They were telling me, I think it was Bucky, one of the guitar players that is doing the Tyoshi Nagabuchi tour. He was telling me about it, I think. I think that's who it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But there was 2 Valley Arts guitars in Tokyo that were in different stores, and I ended up seeing one of them that I think it was Bucky that was telling me about it. And he was obviously it's interesting, like Lukather and Toto, and it's this big deal in Japan, big deal. And so, guitar nerds over there, Valley Arts, big deal. Like, people, if that's what you're into, one of the things I love about Japan, whatever you're into 3 million%. Valley Arts, like a vintage Valley Arts over there. Vintage, by vintage, I mean like 80s, 90s. I guess those guitars are legit vintage these days, right? We're talking about almost, going back 40 years. So, anyway, what else have we got here? David says he does a one-man acoustic gig when he's not playing in a band. Love your reviews. Any acoustic guitar pedal recommendations? Oh, well, I got this thing here that I need to make a video for, and I'm pretty excited about it. This is an acoustic IR pedal. So look at all the acoustic instruments on the side there. Basically, what's going on here, well, let's just take a look. Studio sound for live performance. Restores the missing body sound from an instrument's piezo pickup. Piezo. I'll never learn how to say it. Tone Dexter 2 restores the rich body tone of your acoustic instrument to the pickup using proprietary digital signal processing technology combined with a pristine analog signal path. It learns the difference between the sound coming from the pickup and the sound coming from a microphone placed in front of the instrument and uses that information to create a transformation called a wave map. Sounds almost like sort of like IR stuff. Once you have stored your mic sound into Tone Dexter 2, simply plug in your instrument and play. Sounds pretty cool to me. Yeah, I've got some decent microphones around here that, I should be able to get a good, mic'd up acoustic sound. I'm going to try it with my Martin and some different guitars that I have here. Probably Taylor and stuff, and see what I can get going, But that sounds like right up your alley, And then I don't know if it's got effects built in or not. Looks like it's got some simple EQ. I wonder if there's any like compression or anything like that built in. I'm excited actually too, because this is like something I've never tried. Anti-feedback. It's got a phone's output. Looks like it's just sort of simple EQ. I don't think there's... I could be wrong, but I don't think there's like, any other effects or anything like that built in. Might be wrong about that, but I'm not seeing that. Looks like there's there's an effect loop, so you can add pedals and things like that. But anyway, that's kind of an interesting product, right? So, excited to try that. In the past, I've used like a Helix with a IR of an acoustic guitar loaded up in the IR block, and then I'll add some EQ and compression and stuff, and I've gotten some pretty nice acoustic sounds that way. Really impressive, I think, using some of the IR technology on acoustic guitars to kind of get a warmer sound. Having said all this, I sort of feel like sound guys have this, or girls have this thing about acoustics, like, that they've gotten used to the sound of a sound of a plugged in acoustic, like the piezo or whatever pickup, that sound is sort of like something they're very comfortable with now. And I think that they kind of tend to, when you like, if you have a guitar with a microphone in it and a pickup, and you blend any of the mic in, they tend to not like it. You know, even if it's a good system like an LR Bags or something, they tend to go, give me more, just the pickup, you know. And just because that we've almost grown like used to over 30, 40 years of hearing that sound being acoustic live, you know, that sort of pioneered by maybe, I don't know, Takamine and companies that did the you know, the undersaddle zingy sounding pickups, you know, that just sort of work live. They don't feed back as much as a mic and all that stuff. And that sound definitely cuts in a live setting. So anyway, it's all, your mileage may vary. You know, depending, this type of thing you're talking about, David, like doing a solo acoustic gig, totally makes sense to have a nice, warm, like the best sort of natural acoustic sound that you can get, you know, rather than the you know, under saddle pickup thing that maybe sometimes works better in a live context in a band, you know, that cuts through a mix and all that. And anyway, it's an interesting discussion. We don't talk about acoustic guitars that much here, and that's where it all started, so we probably should. I got a super chat I got to get to there. I'm going to hit that in just a sec. Marco says, I'm using Engel Powerball with Marshall Governor Overdrive. What's your thought about using it in the effects loop instead of in front? I'm not really a fan of that. It can work, but I mean, I like tube front ends, and a Powerball is a pretty cool tube front end. So I would be using... Ooh, that was a good swig of coffee. I would be using probably the... Powerball has a clean channel, right? Doesn't it? Or am I wrong? I think it probably does. I would be using the Marshall Governor as an alternate sound on the clean channel. That's kind of what I do. Let me see what a Powerball is here exactly, because I just forget. I've got the Powerball module, but yeah, it's definitely a multi-channel head. It says a pure, uncompromising metal amp. Let's see. Powerball also produces crystal clear, clean tones, crispy crunch, dense solo sounds, and everything in between with ease. Definitely looks like it's at least 2 channels, if not 3. Oh, 4 channels. It's 4 channels. Never mind. So you got clean crunch, lead 1, lead 2. If it's the one that I'm looking at, there might be different versions of Powerball, but I at least think, you know, whatever you've got, it's got a couple channels in it. So I would probably be setting up that governor if I was using it at all with that amp, because it sounds like with 4 channels, you might not need another amp style distortion, but I would be setting it up to be a alternate tone to what the amp does. You know, like sometimes I'll use a Marshall style pedal with the PT100 even though it's a 3-channel amp, because I'll want like a, generally speaking, it's when I want a lower gain, barely breaking up kind of Marshall tone. And, you know, I feel like I can get a better sound with a pedal through the clean channel than I can through the amp's channel 2 with the volume rolled down on my guitar. You know, because I'll do that a lot. I'm a big volume control guy. But sometimes it's just like, well, I just want a lightly broken up, you know, think JTM 45 or something, or, you know, like just a, you know, 60s rhythm thing or something, and I don't want it to be with the guitar on 10. I want it to be just a little bit of crunch, you know, and so I'll use a pedal through the clean channel. So that's probably what I'd be using that governor for if I was you. Not using it as the primary tone source on an all-tube boutique amp that has probably, you know, 3 great distortion channels in it. So just my opinion. I mean, I just, you know, pedals are great, and man, there's some really good Marshall pedals out there for sure, like awesome. But I just think you can't beat a great tube front end, you know, a tube preamp, proper tube preamp running high voltage and all that, and the dynamics of it and the feel and all that stuff is, you know, a pedal. I just don't think your mileage may vary. I mean, some of the greatest guitar sounds in the world have been created by, you know, weird people trying different things, you know, and you'd never think, you know, oh, that's what they're using. So I could be wrong, but I really think that for the most part, a great tube front end is always the way to go if you've got it. I would defer to Pete on the Tonex pedal comparison to more high-end profilers. I have only compared to the HX Stomp, and in my opinion, the Tonex is somewhat more easy to use. I mean, I think that's probably true. I think that the HX Stomp is a great piece of gear. You know, it does a lot in a small package. One of the complaints that people that I know have about it is that it's complex, you know, and a little bit difficult to get around on. That's not an uncommon. They packed a lot into a very small package, and you know, when they do that, it's always a question of like, is it easy to get around, you know? So, and that's a big concern to me, you know, is it easy to get around? I mean, nothing taken away from Line 6. They do a great job on this. You know, the HX Effects is really cool. HX Stomp is really cool. It obviously does a million things, but a little difficult to navigate is what I've heard, you know, from folks. I've never used one. I have one. I've not used it in a live rig or anything like that. So there's going to be other people that know the ins and outs of getting around on one better than me. Generally speaking, these days, man, I mean, I'm certainly like this with my H90 and any kind of device. If there's an editor and I'm programming sounds to get ready for gigs or rehearsals or whatever I'm getting ready for, a tour, I'm plugging in that editor and doing it all on the computer. There's so many things I don't even know how to do on an H90 because it's an amazing sounding box that is very, very difficult to navigate. Amazing sounding. It does almost anything. I mean, I was doing some stuff this week for some exciting stuff I got coming up, and you know, programming some sounds and stuff like that. And I needed some really like cool ambient, you know, stuff, and like so I was using the, you know, sort of 12-stringy harmonizer effects with really ambient reverb and stuff like that, and doing some stuff, putting it all on Expression Pedal. Man, I plug in the editor, I can figure that stuff out in like 3-4 minutes. I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting a good sound. Within 10 minutes, it's like, that's just great. Like I've got it. If I had to do it on the unit itself, talk to me sometime next year. You know, it's a difficult thing to get around on. So anyways, and same thing with any of the Helix stuff. It's like you plug in the editor and it's all just bam, there it is on a big screen. You can get around, you know, do everything you need to do. And you know, so it makes the difficult to navigate thing much less of an issue. It's still an issue, but if you get your sounds all super dialed and you get them dialed at sound checks and rehearsals, and if you've always got a laptop close by or something, you can get into the, you know, I've always got my laptop close on stage, like at rehearsals and stuff for, you know, if I need to get in and I need to do some, you know, even on the Quad Cortex, which I consider to be an incredibly easy to use thing, doing a set list and stuff, I'll still plug in the computer most of the time, you know, because navigating, you know, the touch screen and moving things around on it and stuff is just not as easy as just getting in the laptop editor and, you know, the PC or computer Mac editor or whatever and doing it that way. So, oh, yeah. Have you heard the Earthquaker Devices Afterneath reverb pedal? I have actually. Yeah. I think I may have one of those here. And I know people, that pedal's been out a really long time and people just love it. I think I may have one of those. I'm not 100% sure, but it gets a lot of love, that pedal, for ambient reverbs. What's up, Northern Ontario? How you doing up there? In my home and native land. What's happening? I think we got Ben Coombs here somewhere. He's from my home and native land of Canada. Let's see. As a 70s prog rocker, should I move to Japan and give up on LA? Man, I mean, you probably really love I love music culture in Japan. I mean, there's some deep stuff going on over there when it comes to they're just, you know, if you're into a certain thing, I mean, there's probably, you'll find your people and they'll be super nerdy as it gets, you know. 70s prog rocker. I mean, I almost feel like, you know, Europe too, right? It'd be a great, probably, you know, I bet there's some community in, you know, Germany or something that's super into, you know what I mean? Or Netherlands or something that really appreciates this kind of stuff. But I don't know, you know, grass is always greener, I suppose. Do you get to keep a lot of it, gear? I mean, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I just, you know, every different thing I do is a different deal. So it just depends on the situation. Must have mounds of pedals. Don't we all have mounds of pedals? A lot of us, you know, we're all nerds here, and like, you know, you're always one overdrive away from the one that, you know, is going to change your life, right? Got to help support the new Kitter Cat. Says Music Life with Arthur. Thanks, man. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. Yeah, little guy's doing good. He's doing good. Let's find a picture. since we're talking about cats for a minute. Why don't we? Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, there he is. Oh, come on. Ooh. Ooh. Just look at him. Handsome. What a handsome devil. He's still crazy. He's getting neutered next week. Shh, don't tell him. Gotta get that done. I'll calm him down for a minute. What else? What else we got here? Let's see. I watched clips of Paul McCartney's MTV Unplugged, and he was pretty forward that he wasn't plugging in, not even an electric acoustic. His acoustic was mic'd up. That makes sense. I mean, that's, it's, if you can do it, like technically, it's going to be great, And on a show like MTV Unplugged, Paul McCartney's not going to spare any expense ever. And in a situation that's controlled like that in a TV studio, sure. I mean, you could do it, and, as long as the monitors aren't too loud and you get great mic positioning, and if you're seated so that I don't know if he was on that show. I don't remember it. So, I don't know that I ever saw it, but I'd like to see it. But yeah, if you're seated and you can kind of get positioned like you would in a studio, there's no reason why it couldn't work, Maybe use in-ears, don't even need monitors. I don't know if he was. I don't think he's an in-ears guy. But yeah. Let's see here. Let's see. Who's the happy dude? Hippie dude. What happened to Pete? I'm just getting back to my, 2011 hairdo. Just letting her go. One more time. Rock and roll. Like it's 1973. Why not? First time in the chat there, says Wayne. What's up, man? I've seen some clips using a single cut. Is it made by Suhr? Can it be custom ordered, or were they limited run? So that particular model was a limited run of 100. I have a prototype one here that, because they made a few prototypes before the actual run. It varies just a little bit from the ones that they actually made, the 100 they made. The neck shape's a little different, but it's a beautiful guitar, and boy, did they ever solve all the problems of the classic single cut 3 on a side headstock situation. The thing stays in tune like crazy. It just sounds great. And Suhr, his thing is solving problems a lot of the time. I mean, that's one of his main, I think, he just fixes things that are wrong with traditional guitars, and it makes the playing experience that much more pleasurable and streamlined and problem-free because of it. So, pretty cool. It's a great guitar, and it's a Suhr Aura. Yeah. Does anybody use K&K Pure Mini pickups? By the way, I saw that super chat up there. I'll grab that in just a second. K&K Pure Mini pickups in their acoustics. Thinking of installing them in my 12-string. Never heard of it. Tell us about it. What's the deal? Please educate us. I don't know that one. Joe says, I have the exotic EP booster pedal. Great pedal. I would like to put first in my chain with 0 dB, but using it for the preamp. Using it for preamp, but Phase 90 Electric Mistress first in my chain. They distort too much. Yeah, an Electric Mistress. Yeah. First in my chain, 0 dB, but using it for the preamp. Yeah, you're going to hit them, and then you're going to... Yeah, Electric Mistress. They're kind of like low headroom, especially modern ones the chips aren't quite the same. It's probably the Electric Mistress mainly, I bet, but... Or maybe not. Maybe it's the other one. But I used to find that like modern analog choruses, I had some good sounding ones, boutique-y, but I'd be like, man, who turned on the overdrive when I'd use it? And it would be just like no headroom, and that's a thing with modern analog chips, I think. I don't know about a Phase 90, if that's the case, but I've never really noticed. But yeah, if you're trying to play really clean, yeah, you might just not be able to. You might just want to put the EP booster after those pedals. Otherwise, you're kind of living with the distortion, Or you can look for pedals that maybe have a little more headroom, analog-y, stuff that's a little more... I know the Alexa chorus by Suhr, for example, that's an analog chorus, and Kevin spent some time on the headroom thing and stuff, and figuring out ways to make sure that it had headroom and didn't, because I know the phenomenon you're talking about. Analog modulation pedals that seem like low headroom is a thing. Whether or not I don't know if you're using a vintage Electric Mistress or not, but my guess is you're probably using something modern. I don't know if the headroom is different on vintage ones or not, but most of the people who use Electric Mistress, when I think about it, they had some drive in their tone anyway. Even Andy Summers, had some little bit of clipping going on, the Marshalls and stuff, whatever he was using. Certainly Alex Lifeson, Electric Mistress users, some distortion. But if you're looking for really, really clean, pristine tones, and then you're finding you're getting a bit of that like unpleasant drive that you don't want for a certain sound, I don't know. I wish I had an answer. Loop switcher maybe, and then just take the Phase 90 and Mistress out of line when you're not using them. I have the same problem with a Memory Man, by the way. I have a fairly modern, big box Memory Man or whatever, and it before I can get the kind of unity gain out of the thing with it, it's distorting for whatever reason. I don't like, so I rarely have ever used it because of that. I should sell it. Any tips for touring Italy? Drink a lot of coffee and wine and eat a lot of pasta and pizza. What else can I say? Any tips? Man, it's a beautiful country. It's a land of extremes, I think, a little bit, Italy. You want to be careful down, the south can be a little gnarly, I would say. So just kind of watch yourself. Like I wouldn't be leaving a lot of stuff in your van or whatever in Naples, Beautiful places, great, but just a little, there's a bit of a crime thing there, I think. And, but it's a land of extremes, You've got Naples, and then like an hour and a half away, you've got Sorrento and Positano and stuff. It's just like, oh my God, See what you can while you're there, I've had to drive right through Florence, on a clinic tour I was on. I was like, we can't stop for like 2 hours and have lunch somewhere. Like, it's Florence. No, we got to get to wherever we were going, Rome or something on the way. And it was like, okay. But I just had a great time in Italy with IK around Bologna. And I'm forgetting, where was I with Modena, of course, the home of Ferrari, and then made it out to Venice for a couple days. Boy, it was a nice trip. Venice was just everything that I could have imagined and more. It was really cool. Tips, I mean, I would just say, just keep your eyes on your gear and all that stuff. That's the only thing, Just be careful. That kind of goes for anywhere, but probably a lot of places in Europe, it can be a little, depends. I had somebody try and steal my phone in Germany once, so right out of my hand. So you just want to watch out and, for stuff. I was in a club and they just came by and tried to walk by me really quickly in a dark club and pull it right out of my hand. And I felt it happening and just clenched down on it, and then they ran away. Things like that happen. You're in Europe already, though, you know this. So it's a good thing for Americans to know, though, too. Like, I find people are very, like, even though it's not like we don't have crime in, this part of the world, Americans are very, like, just lackadaisical about taking their cell phone at lunch, for example, at an outdoor place and just having it sitting beside them on the table, Just putting it down. It's just sitting there. You do that in Europe, and you're a pretty good chance somebody's going to come running by and swipe it, or a purse, or, anything like that. Right off the table, So, like, you can't do that in London, It's a bad idea. So you gotta be a little more aware, I find. But anyway, just a little travel tips. This is why Mick from That Pedal Show didn't like H90. Too many options. Yeah, it can be a little overwhelming. I mean, the Eventide guys are, they're brilliant. They're brainiacs, for sure. And I've talked with, some of the main dudes there and stuff. But I've come to realize that there's a lot of folks that, when you go down a rabbit hole of designing a product, there's a culture involved, a company culture. And you're also, the mind of a designer, because these people are very smart, and the rest of us probably aren't. Or at least, me, I'm not. Like, we just want a simple thing, and they have the benefit of a couple of years of, or maybe the benefit, maybe it's the non-benefit or something of a couple of years of design and going, well, I could make it do this. And if I just add another menu here, I could make it do this. I can add this option and they're like, isn't this great? Because it does all this stuff. And then you're getting it going like, what? Like, how do I just change the mix on the phaser or on the chorus or whatever? How do I just want to do something simple. It's like, how do I get to it? And I found the H90 was very like the whole, I get it when I use the editor, the computer editor, it all makes sense. The whole programs versus presets. It makes more sense when you've got a computer editor plugged in. On the unit itself though, if I just want to I still don't know how to use it. Like how to the different modes of I just want to advance to the next preset, or I just want to decrement or whatever to down presets. I want to use the knob to do that. I can't figure out, it's in some other mode and it's changing. Oh no, it's really, really a little difficult to figure out. It sounds amazing. I mean, you can get some incredible sounds, but there's a reason why it's expensive and everything. It's a full-blown, rack processor basically in a pedal. And anytime you pack all that stuff into something so small, it can be a little difficult to get around, I think. It's an art form, designing, something that's ergonomic, I guess is the word, and, the user interface is a big deal. How to make it as bonehead simple as possible, Guitar Talk Universe says, I have difficulty navigating my TS9. You know what's funny, man? I made a video on that, right? How not to use overdrives. That's my #1 video on YouTube, I think. It's 1,000,005 plus views, I think. Let me see. How to and how not to use overdrive. Let me see if it'll pop up as one of the #1 things on Google if you search for it. And I got some funny comments like, don't tell me how to live my life. 2.1 million views now. Last time I looked, it was 1.5. That video, 27,000 likes. Wow. Just a simple video on a tube screamer. You wouldn't think it'd be that popular, would it? But it was pretty wild. Did really, really good. Basically, I'm just showing the whole volume up, drive down thing. I found a lot of people, they don't have a lot of output, and a lot of people would set them for less than unity gain, and you'd get that kind of semi-distorted but clean sound, when you turn it on with the drive up the middle and the volume up the middle and almost a little volume loss, and just kind of to not do that, use it more like Stevie Ray Vaughan or whatever and crank the volume and maybe turn the tone down a bit past half and have the drive just barely on, if at all, and use it like a dirty boost, was the concept of the video. Glenn is in Montreal. What's up? Bonjour. Ça va? Is the Suhr Badger 18 similar to a blues breaker? No, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know what the Badger 18 is, but it's not a Marshall clone or something. It's cathode bias. And John was trying to make an amp. I'm not sure exactly what the circuit is, but it doesn't really sound like a Vox, and it doesn't really sound like a Marshall. It sounds like its own thing. He was more going, I think, for an organic kind of natural rootsy breakup. It's one of the best transition from clean to breakup amps I've ever heard. Is it clean? Is it dirty? Great for the Nashville kind of thing. When I think of Nashville, I think of warmer distortion tones that are warmer breakup, where it sits in a track really nicely and isn't rock, but isn't totally clean either. You know what I mean? Great for that. More English than American, having said that, I would say. A little more in the Marshall camp than in any kind of Fender camp or something, at least to my ears. A little bit more. That's just the tone of the kind of the EQ stack and all that, and the way it barks a little bit. So, if there could be some crossover there. Like when I think blues breaker, JTM 45, sure, warmer, fatter Marshall. Kind of. But it's its own thing. So, and the Badger front end is, I think, very similar, if not exactly the same, between them. The 18 and the 30 and the 35. 35 is a double power 18, basically. The 30 has EL34, so slightly different power amp. It's a little more Marshall to me. A little more, the cleanest one to me might be the 30, like the one that's the most capable. And you can run, I think, 5881s in them. Like you can just literally, it's cathode bias, you can literally pop them in there and it'll work. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that you can just do that. You can just run those tubes in there and, you know, get a little bit more of that thing going on with it. So it's kind of interesting. Really good amp with pedals. Do you like the Wampler Dual Fusion? Fusion, I think you meant Fusion. The Dual Fusion I did a video for, God, 10 years ago? That's a really old pedal. It was kind of the Tom Quayle pedal, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken. I seem to remember getting good sounds out of it, that it was pretty cool. I don't really remember what it sounded like, though, but I do have a video on it. So it's been a long time, so yeah. Mark says he picked up a MXR Blue Poly Octave. Nice pedal, really cool. Kind of in the Pog and, you know, what's the Boss one? Boss has a cool one too. Light blue, sparkle blue, kind of, it's, or whatever you call it. I don't know what color that is, but light metallic blue. That's a nice version as well. Octave / a little bit of mod going on. You can get some very organ-like sounds. All good pedals. Good pedals. All right, what do we got here? Do you recall what Tuning SG's Dusty is in? The song Dusty. I don't think we ever played that. Sorry, dude. But it's probably on YouTube. Let's see. Or Soundgarden. Yeah, that's one song that I don't even know this song, to be honest. So Dusty's on Down on the Upside. Yeah, we never learned that. Let's see. Soundgarden, Dusty, tuning. It's probably one of the... Oh, here we go. I think it's the tuning from Super Unknown. Same tuning. So it looks like the A string goes down to G, D string to D. Let's see. There's a tab. Somebody tabbed it out. Is that right? I'm just looking here, but there's varying things I'm seeing online about it, to be honest. But the first thing that popped up here is a video where somebody's teaching it. Dusty by Soundgarden. Take a look here. Maybe he says in the video description what he thinks the tuning is. No, he doesn't. But I just found a Ryan Lent. Looks like he's got a lot of subscribers. Must be a good video. Yeah, this video looks pretty popular. So Ryan Lent, Lendt, did a video on Dusty. So maybe check that out. From just the little bit of information I could garner from the... let's see here. Well, let me just see if I can get past this ad or whatever. So you can't hear this playing, you might be able to. I'm not really sure. My little virtual thing. There he is. Does he list the tuning? No, I mean, there's no text in the video anywhere, I don't think. So, anyways, but I'm pretty sure it might be the Super Unknown tuning, which is basically like drop D, but then you also drop the G string. Sorry, the A string, fifth string to G. Could be that. Anyway, check out his video. My girl cat jumps on the kitchen counter and steals my veggies. You know what Mochi's been doing lately is taking my sponge from my sink. I'll find it like somewhere in the house. You know, like takes the sponge and They're so like, yeah, and breaking all your plants. Yeah, they do that too. And if you got plastic plants, they'll eat those. They don't care. Bonkers. Okay, I'm just moving down through the chat here. Played a whole show on acoustic recently. It says classic rock granddad. Great experience and interesting to not have pedals. Yeah, I kind of love the acoustic thing. Sometimes I used to play. There was a pop singer named Colby Clay, and the bubbly girl, and I played with her for a few months back in like 2012. And we used to go out and do some acoustic gigs, and it was really fun just bringing nothing but an acoustic, and or sometimes backlining one, and just playing what was ever there, and showing up with nothing but maybe a tuner and just plugging it in and playing a few songs on acoustic. I enjoyed that, and I used to do all kinds of acoustic gigs, like Fool on the Stool, kind of two guys playing Pink Floyd and Beatles songs and stuff like that. Back in the 90s, I did a ton of that stuff, so I cut my teeth doing that. Yeah. Advantages of loop switching. Like, you mean like a switcher, like a Musicom or the ES8 from Boss or something? Well, there's numerous advantages. You keep all your pedals out of line when you're not using them. So, your signal path stays more pure, generally speaking. You're not running through like a ton of stuff. You can do complex presets and switch a ton of things with one button push. So you're going from an ambient clean with compression and delay and chorus to a straight up dry, heavy rhythm sound. One button push, That's the biggest for me. I don't have to tap dance. I can just program my sounds and do crazy changes and have spillover and things. So I'm playing a solo with an epic, reverb and delay that tails over back into the clean part, and I hit one button and then it tails over and everything. I can keep playing. And if you're a singer, there's just no comparison because you can just concentrate on singing and out of the corner of your eye, you just hit the one button with your, or if you want to get really tricky, like all the kids these days with their running tracks and everything, using Ableton and stuff when they're playing live, you just program the MIDI to do your changes. So you hook up the, if you're ever running a track and you're using a switcher that's MIDI, might as well like program the switcher to do your changes, and then you can walk to the front of the stage and play an epic solo and end on your big note and raise your arm up in the air and then come back to the rhythm guitar and your pedals just all change without you even having to be there. It's fantastic. Yep. I saw you in Rome 2019. 2019 Rome, I remember that. A music store. Yep, it was late 2019. Yeah. On the way there, I was sad that I couldn't stop in Florence, but I still had a great time in Rome, and I had a great time in, like I say, in Naples and Positano. I also went to Lake Como on that trip. That was great. Spent a night at a nice hotel in Como and got up the next morning and had nice coffee and breakfast and stuff. And it was just beautiful. I'd like to go back there. Yeah. That song that Tora wrote for the IK gig was Naughty. Yeah, that's a great tune, right? She's so good, man. I really like her. Like, she was, what a nice person. Like, I just really enjoyed hanging with her, and we had some good talks. And, when you meet people and you're like, oh, this person feels like an old friend. Like, she was like that. She was just a really, really cool person to hang with, and I really enjoyed it. Really genuine. Great guitar player. Great singer. Cool songs. I was a fan instantly, and I hadn't really been aware of her before doing the IK thing. If you guys haven't seen it, it's really fun. The IK video. I was so happy with the way it turned out. 5 people. Some of us knew each other a little bit, but for the most part, these were people I'd certainly never played with before. Well, a little bit, but like for the most part, I hadn't played with any of the folks involved in that video. It's on the IK site. Basically, we're using Tonex, 5 guitar players using Tonex, all to record. And Tora had this song that she sort of, said, have at it, destroy it if you want to. And we sort of rearranged it for 5 guitar parts, and we're performing live the 5 guitar parts. She's singing, and we each take a little solo, and everybody's got a different tone and a different little approach to. And, you know, it was definitely like a thing where we all got in there and everybody was really cognizant that we had to leave space for 5 guitars, right? So we got to leave space for each other, each sit in a different sonic space as well as, you know, musical space. And you know, so we kind of arranged it one day and started getting some tones together and stuff like that. And then the next day we did the tracking and did some takes and stuff like that and ended up with something that we really liked. And then did some other stuff while we were there as well. But it was really a success, I think. Like when I listen to it, it makes me happy. It sounds like 5 guitar players that really respect one another and are having fun and are staying out of the way. And the song sounds like a song. You know, it doesn't sound like a bunch of people noodling. It's like that. It all works, you know, within the context. When we sat down to do it, my little contribution, I guess, was sort of, because there was nobody really there was no producer named or whatever. So we each were just left to kind of, you know, and luckily everybody was really tuned in to the right thing, I think. But my little contribution, like production wise, I guess, was I said, do you know the song Love Fool by the Cardigans? I said, if we could approach this from that perspective a little bit, I think it would be really great. Just because Love Fool, if you haven't heard it, it's a total like smooth, awesome pop track that's a little funky, and but it has the Cardigans guitar player was really, really brilliant. So many different sounds, so many different parts and styles, all within the context of this sort of pop track. But there's like 6 distinct guitar sounds going on, like all totally different, really dark, jazzy, you know, like neck pickup, beautiful major 7 chord, dry as a bone, but with the tone rolled all the way down. Funky, kind of clean, compressed, skanky stuff. Super fuzzed out, 60s sounding fuzz line. You know, like everything from the darkest to the gnarliest, all in one track, and it was so well done. If you haven't heard it, listen to it. It's a masterclass in call and answer and different tones and how to make it all work within the context of a song, and to sort of have it magically feel like not forced. You know, you're not really thinking about it as the song is playing; it just plays. And it all works. And so I used that as an example. I said, if we could kind of like think about this, I think conceptually like that song, leaving that much space and everybody filling their little sonic space and all that, and, you know, part space, musical space. So that was my contribution, I think, to and then we all, you know, everybody had little, you know, ideas and how to approach, and it's turned out great. I was really happy with the way it turned out. Man, did we ever eat good food and drink good coffee and wine over those couple of days. It was really fun. It was great. So a success. I made new friends. I can't wait to go back and do other stuff with those people. So can the community help me with guitar players that are always fronting the band with vocals? Phil X, Billy Gibbons come to mind. Well, how about Big Wreck, Ian? He's the master. The triple threat singer, songwriter, guitar player extraordinaire like no one else. You know, incredible songwriter, incredible singer, incredible guitar player. So there you go. And Canadian to boot. Come on. Or some classics like, how about Rick Emmett from Triumph? How about Jimi Hendrix? How about Dave Meniketti from Y&T? How about Eric Clapton from the band Cream? I don't know. Eddie Van Halen used to be the lead singer of Van Halen in the early days. Metallica guy plays and sings guitar. James, of course, the master. Green Day, of course. Yeah. John Sykes. Come on. Blue Murder. Good stuff. Joe says, thanks for answering my question. Definitely the Mistress. New one. So I put the EP after my overdrives. Yeah, the new ones, the chips just aren't what they used to be. There was more headroom in old analog chips for some reason. So you have to be kind of like, you have to be when you're designing a pedal, really cognizant of the headroom thing. I know it's a difficult thing for if you're ever at NAMM and you want to corner Kevin Suhr in the Suhr booth, you could ask him about like, hey, what's the deal with headroom and modern analog chips in mod pedals? And half an hour later, he'll still be talking, giving you an answer, I'm sure. Chris Quinn says, my H9, I've had the best luck of just going at it with presets. Gave up early thinking I was going to get it to imitate analog pedals. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. It doesn't really necessarily imitate analog pedals, although like the vintage delays and stuff can be pretty, vintagey sounding. But yeah, you're gonna use a chorus or a phaser or something. It's not gonna sound exactly like an old gooey analog box, I don't think. But you can get a great thing, with the sounds. I think the best sort of maybe analog emulations in a pedal would be maybe the Mobius from what I've heard. The flangers and the chorusing and stuff can be pretty great. And to be fair, even line 6, I mean, with the HX effects and stuff like that, and the effects that are in a lot of their boxes, like their 70s chorus and pretty legit gooey sounding, I think. The Mobius, though, I have direct A/B'd with things like an MXR flanger, when I was trying to get sounds, and I got so close. I was really impressed, There's always something with analog where it feels like it's almost like listening to an LP compared to a CD. You just feel like, oh yeah, it's just analog when it's analog and it's got an analog thing. And with digital, you're like, yeah, it's close. It's sort of the same sound, but I feel like I'm listening to a CD or something instead of a record, if that makes sense. But the Mobius still on my board for a reason. It gets really, really close. When I'm playing Rush and stuff through it, if you watch any of the videos of Classic Rock Show when we did Spirit Radio with the flanger, or YYZ, or any of the, I'm using the Mobius heavy modulation lifting, generally speaking, and I think it sounds really great. So, yeah. The challenge for product development folks is getting too far away from the end user and actual and valuable use cases. I agree, man, and I think that sometimes they will, when they're trying to get it to do something, they'll come up with something great. This is probably just a human nature thing. They'll come up with something great because their brain can understand it, and maybe it is great if you've got enough time to spend, learning curve time to spend learning how to do it. A lot of people maybe just don't have that, though, and so then you'll talk to them and you'll be like, I don't, like if they do ask your opinion on it, what do you think about this? I've found that I can be like, I'm not sure because, and they'll give, because whatever. And they'll be like, yeah, but, and they'll kind of push back on it. But look how cool it is. Like because they really want you to understand, they've put a lot of time and thought into things and development into things. And here they're asking somebody for an opinion, and maybe the person, be it me or whoever, is giving an opinion based on 10 seconds of evaluation, right? Of something they might have been working on for the last 6 months. Like, I wouldn't do that because it needs to be simpler. And they go like, oh, and that's like a punch in the gut to them, I think. But no, just try and it's going to be cool. If I and I do this, because they're like, it's becomes like a passion project, from a development perspective. So I think that the trick for them, the balance is in always sort of maintaining that connection. What is the goal? And what are the most important things? That it has to be this and this and this, and to never deviate. Maybe they don't get into that so much. Maybe they're like, well, we're just going to make this thing crazy, and they don't think about that. Maybe people don't want that depth of learning curve and stuff like that. So, I've said in the past, about the Axfex, that it's really deep and it can be a little hard to navigate. And sometimes I'm having trouble getting around the editor, but it's great. It does 20 million things. And if you're down with the learning curve and you want to be able to do 20 million things, fantastic. One thing I've heard is their new unit, the new effect, the 4-buttoner, that does 4 effects, is very easy to get around. So I think they've been hearing that. And I'm really actually excited to try one because I hear it sounds amazing. And I hear that it's really easy to use, and I think that that's great if they've kind of moved in that direction a little bit. That's a fantastic thing. I almost feel like with them or other companies, what if there was a way? Source Audio kind of does this pretty well. I'm making a video for this pedal right now. these guys are a good example of this. This is the Artifact. This is the lo-fi pedal. Got a knob there with a whole bunch. You can see all the different algorithms and things. This is a lo-fi pedal that you can do all kinds of stuff. Delays, reverbs, bit crushing, vinyl sounds, glitching sounds, tape sounds, radio sounds, all kinds of stuff, right? If you plug this into an editor, which I haven't even done, I know I could plug this into an editor, and a very sophisticated computer editor will pop up with a whole bunch of options where I can get in and get super deep into things. But one thing that they do pretty well is just give you a pretty good selection on the knobs of things that you can do. And then there's a button here that says preset. You can step between 4 on the unit. Now, if you hook it up via MIDI, because it's MIDI, you can do, I'm sure there's 128 or whatever presets that you can store, maybe more. I'm not sure, in banks or whatever. But basically what I'm getting at is they make a pedal that is quite sophisticated with sophisticated capabilities, but if you just want to never do any of that sophisticated stuff and you just want to get some sounds and then maybe store 4 presets, you can do that with their pedals. They're true spring reverbs like that. It's like 4 knobs on the unit. It sounds amazing, like one of the best spring emulations I've ever heard, the Source Audio True Spring. I did a video for it. Check it out if you are interested in the spring. Really great sounding. Plug it into the editor, you can get super deep, with things that you can change and algorithms. But you may never do that. You might just use the 4 knobs on the pedal and get some sounds, and that's it. So I feel like these strike a nice balance with that. I will say that Strymon, with the big box, Timeline, Mobius, Big Sky, pretty great as far as like even going back 10 years because the pedal's been around that long, longer, maybe 12. This relatively easy to figure out how to do everything like on the pedal without a manual, right? But they're sophisticated enough, like you've got everything you need in there, with the mods. Let's say take the flanger, you can, there's a resonance control, there's a manual control like you would find on a MXR flanger. Of course, rate and depth and all that stuff. And it's all right there on the knobs, But, of course, it's digital, and then you can store it, and it's pretty easy, So I just think, striking that balance, really important. Companies may be recognizing it more than ever, and it's important. That's all. If anybody had any deep dive questions, various modelers and sims, check out Steve Sterilacci. He does a lot of killer deep dive stuff. That's interesting. I haven't seen that. Yeah, it's good to know there's somebody out there that does that stuff. It's certainly not for me, like the deep dive, learning every aspect of, it's a certain kind of YouTuber or person that gets into that. I guess I don't have the patience, for the super deep dives. I sort of more like to, the type of videos I make. I make a piece of music in 8 hours and put it out, whatever my first impressions are almost is kind of what I do. And that's sort of, I just like that. I just like really, I just want to play music. So do you feel like between touring YouTube, your creativity stuffers? On that note, great segue. Even though you do great tracks for products, there's a singular focus. Do you get time to create for yourself? Not enough, probably, but I have to look at it as a glass half full situation, because when I look back at some of my product demos, they serve as demos too, right? So I am writing. Here's one of the things about making YouTube videos the way that I make them. Like I was just saying, I like to make a piece of music. I'm not editing myself very much. I'm getting into it. I'm doing something relatively quickly, and I get to kind of be inspired by a sound or a tone and work from that. That's the inspiration. And because of that, I've been fairly prolific over the years and come up with a lot of little pieces of music. When I did my last record, I mined those videos. The last record was 2018. It's been way too long since I did one, but I mined ideas going back 4 or 5 years, demos. I probably listened to 100 different little demos I'd done, and that's how Pete Thorn 2 came about. So when I do another record, I can do that again, or I can, always start fresh, because I kind of want to start fresh, to be honest. But I've got all that to draw on, and that's creating for myself. You say, do I get time to create for myself? I'm basically sort of, I always say I've sort of got everybody fooled into thinking I'm making a product video. I'm really just having fun making little songs, because that's the fun part for me. Of course, I'm showcasing the gear, and then I got to talk about the gear and edit it into a video. But when I'm doing the music, I feel like I'm just writing and having fun, writing a piece of music. I don't use any kind of different approach or anything like that than I would to, I guess I'm programming drums and doing everything myself, so I'm making a demo a little bit more, but that still sounds like legit music to me. So, if I was writing for a record, I might be more apt to, get together with a bass player and drummer and work things out in a little bit of a different fashion. But then again, that can be, I guess my point is this. The neat thing about the writing the way I do it for the YouTube videos is that I'm not editing myself by, I'm not doing that thing where you fall into the trap of, does this suck? Like, is this not good enough? Like, oh, maybe this is a stupid idea. Maybe this doesn't, it's not good enough for a record. Like, I'm not thinking about any of that stuff. And ironically, when you take off those kind of guardrails and you're not worried about all that stuff because out of like, well, what are people going to think about this or something? Don't really think about it that way. I'm just like trying to write a cool little piece of music that showcases a sound through music, I guess. And I've removed that barrier and kind of gotten, and it's allowed my writing to kind of like, I know how to tap into that. I feel like that space pretty easily now. So I'm talking about creative blocks or roadblocks and stuff, to creativity. So, you give yourself permission to just, you know what I mean? Like don't edit and don't just let it come out and see how it turns out. Sometimes I write things and I'm like, this is kind of trite and sort of sucks, and then like I get through to the end, I go, actually it turned out pretty good. I sort of felt that way about the, what was the video that I did recently? Let me see here, because I just can't remember because my memory's crap, but I'm just looking here at which video it was. Was it for the... maybe it was for the Deluxe 55, the latest one I did. As I was doing it, that's the origin pedal. As I was doing it, I was like, I don't know, like if this kind of just boring, is it like, and then the way it progressed, like, and I did the harmony part, which turned into a 3-part harmony. And I thought, oh, this has a nice little arc to it now. Like it started out really basic, but now it's got a nice, with the harmony and everything, that sounds like me, so it turned into a thing I was very happy with. And, so, I don't know. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to say is that, yeah, sure. And okay, so now you bring up touring. So touring, definitely pulls you away from, I don't really write on the road that much. I just don't. I don't know. Like I thought, oh, I'm gonna, and I'll bring an interface and stuff. Never do. I'm never inspired in a hotel room to, when I'm in a city, I want to go out and walk around the city and stuff, because that's inspiring in a different way. So I don't play guitar on the road from very, I do it during a gig, like improvising and stuff, but I'm not the most creative in a hotel room. So, yeah, I would say that it definitely, those touring times, sure, that creativity suffering maybe, but you're working a different muscle. You're out there playing live and you're performing in front of people and you're improvising sometimes. Your chops when you come off the road are generally, never better. So it's a different thing. And I try and view it as all part of what I do. It's like, it's not all about writing songs for me. I love writing. I mean, I totally enjoy it. It's probably one of my, it's definitely one of my favorite things to do. But I love going out and playing with Classic Rock Show, or playing with Tyoshi Negabuchi, in Japan, or playing, I loved playing with Chris Cornell and playing that music, interpreting, like putting yourself in that role as almost like an actor, right? Because you're playing Soundgarden or Audio Slave parts, whatever, and you need to interpret them to become part of the, like really get into the role or whatever. That's part of my skill set. And back then I wasn't even doing a lot of writing, when I was doing that. I was primarily a sideman guitar player. So it's like, you are what you are, I became an artist post that, like almost, like put out a solo record 2011. That was after my tenure with Chris. So it's like, and it was like, oh, I can do this too. I can also write it's not like I hadn't been in bands and written and stuff, but it's all good, like if you so in other words, like if you play in church, or if you play in a cover band, or if you're you accompany a singer-songwriter on the road as an acoustic guitar player, and then you sometimes do your own music, and maybe you also do a little social media and do like what, like it's all good and it all feeds, and it's like, you know, and part of my, you know, products to be, now here's the other thing. So I'll let you in on a little secret. Like when you think about it, tracks for products, right? From a money perspective, nobody's making any money selling music or streaming anymore. I mean, okay, a little bit, but it's 0.004 cents a stream, you know, like on Spotify or whatever for every stream. It's like, it's really difficult to earn any kind of considerable income. You know, you're gonna be creative, and you're gonna make your record, your magnum opus, and you're gonna put it out and stream it, and you're gonna hope to make what? Like, probably not. So is what I'm saying. Maybe, I mean, try, you know, don't, but it's a much different world that we live in now than it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 35, because the world 20 years ago was different than the world 35 years ago when it came to music. And, you know, I feel like when I put out my first record around 2011, the whole Napster thing was full swing, streaming starting, all that stuff, but people were still buying CDs. I actually did really well on my first record. Like, it was a good little project that, you know, for something that I made at home that didn't cost me very much money at all. Like, it was like way more successful than any signed band that I'd ever been in. For me, that's the truth, you know. Like, all the effort I'd put into with bands, and, you know, I never made it, you know, you might get a record company advance or whatever, but I never saw royalties and stuff, you know, for any of that. It was like, you're always paying back your advance until they just end up dropping you. That's most bands, you know. That's most bands. The vast majority of bands, you know, even, you know, back in the day when people were selling records and making money selling records, the vast majority of bands never recouped the investment that, you know, that their label put into them, and then they're trying to recoup through their little percentage of sales, you know. So when I put on my own record independently and did it, way more successful than any side band I'd ever been in, and I'd been in more than a few. So you know, from that perspective. So what I'm getting at is, now when you're talking about like great tracks for products, it's actually, to be honest, like products, it's still this physical thing that you sell, you know? So if if you can make a signature pedal, or if you can make a signature guitar or something, like, you're selling something that people are actually still paying cold hard cash for. And if you get a piece of that, it's a much smaller part of the puzzle. I mean, we're talking about selling guitars and pedals compared to selling music. It used to be CDs and stuff, right? Music consumers, that was a way bigger tent than guitar customers or pedal customers. But pedals are expensive, guitars are expensive. And if you can get into that world of, you know, a little bit of, you know, it's a definite, you know, you make something that people want, and it can be fairly lucrative, is all I'm saying. So this is something to consider. That, to me, these days, I always say, like, I've sort of transitioned. I started out in the musical instrument business, right? Because I was a salesman in guitar stores. I mean, I worked in guitar shops as a teenager, and I also taught in music stores and stuff like that. So I spent a lot of time in music shops, and that this is how I'm sitting here in front of you today talking about pedals and stuff like that, because it was when I was 14 or whatever, it was like I was always interested in this stuff, the nuts and bolts and the hardware, and also into playing. So I've just sort of parlayed that all into the same thing. And I spent a lot of time in the early 2000s, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, into, say, 2008 or so, music. That's all I did. Sideman stuff. I made my money as a sideman and as a session musician. It was all the playing, right? Then I kind of transitioned slowly into this YouTube thing, also being a solo artist, and also transitioning back from the music business into the musical instrument business. Different business. You know, peripheral, but yeah. And in the musical instrument business, there's still physical things being sold. It's not all, you know, digital being stolen, being streamed, being whatever. And it's something to consider. That was a hell of a long rant. If you stuck with me through all that, it's just something to think about, you know, that it's not such a bad thing, like making tracks for products. it's a, I'm happy to write songs, you know, making tracks for products and stuff like that when, especially if it's something that it's, you know, as a job and as I'm not getting any younger, right? You know, it's like, I sort of know where I'm at in this scheme of things, and I like the little niche I've carved out and stuff, and I'm pretty happy these days. So it is what it is. But anyways, just there's a lot of verbal diarrhea there, but also some food for thought. Hopefully, to you youngins out there, if anybody's under the age of 46 watching this, maybe not, but hopefully. Holy crap, the Friedman IR-J is unbelievable. I have tons of amps, and I rank it right up there with the rest of them. Yeah, they're really good. You know, they're definitely onto something. The Friedman preamp pedals. Not dissimilar to, you know, it's a sort of a sister product with the Soldano preamp, and I agree. I mean, they're excellent. It's the both the marriage of the analog and the digital is really, really good. And Dave is a guy that's definitely got a, you know, like you know how the IRJ has 3 IRs on a switch and that's it. He wanted that. They could have done more. You know, could have been 10. On, you know, whatever, and like he didn't want that. He's like, no, I want it simple. He's like 98% of the rock guitar sounds ever recorded were done with either a greenback or a V30. So you get a good greenback on there, a good V30. What more do you need? And I think there's a lot of truth in that. You know, his desire to keep it simple and yet offer some good flexibility is I'm on board with that. So yeah, always striking that balance. So. But yeah, they're really good sounding. Any recommendations for rotary pedal that's not so focused on grit? Well, I mean, the Lex or the Mobius has great rotary sounds. You can have them totally clean if you want to. The Ventilator is always a great choice. You know, I've got one of the original ones from, you know, over 10 years ago. There's a newer version, but I always think they sound really good. Some other ones out there. I've done videos on some various ones. I think maybe I do one for a JHS or something, or I don't know. If you look for, you know, Pete Thorn rotary pedal, you're gonna find some stuff come up of the videos that I've done over the years. But the Ventilator stands out as being, you know, one of the top. Like, well, this thing really sounds like a Leslie. Like, it's pretty terrific. The H90, you know, H9, their rotary algorithm's fantastic. Really, really good. So. Yeah. Do you have any plans to release any of the music you write for your reviews? So yeah, well, that's Pete Thorn too. You know, if you watch, for example, I think it was called the Bogner Lyndhurst compressor. Was that the name of it? I think it was a compressor video that became the song "In Good Company" from Pete Thorn too, my last record. So I do that. You know, the analog effects. What was it called? Vintage Revolution, analog multi-effect. That became All Is Not Lost from my last solo record. So with a beautiful intro and programming and stuff by Steve Stevens. So and you know, on both those tunes, I actually took some of the tracks from the original demo and used them in the song. You know, replaced everything, drums and bass and all that stuff, and added way more parts and sections and things, but. Some of the original stuff is still there from the video demos, so you can kind of hear, if you're interested. I mean, in the things I've been talking about and how turning, you know, like pedal demos into full album tracks. Listen to the Bogner compressor video and listen to the Vintage Revolution multi-effect video that I made many years ago, and then listen to In Good Company and All Is Not Lost, respectively, from my last record, and you'll hear how I took demos and turned them into full album tracks. You'll listen for what survived and what was replaced and stuff. Yeah. Who's this? Let's see here. Mr. Farstrat. Hi, all. New here in Thorn Avenue. Cheers from Peru. What's up? Peru, man. Still a place I've never been. I'd love to go. Someday I'll get down there and play. And, you know, or maybe just for vacation. Jake, there with the tuning for that Soundgarden song, DGDGBE. So that's the same tuning from Super Unknown. Interesting tuning. You know, basically you've got to dropped both the low strings from standard down a whole step. and you end up with the tuning that was used on Super Unknown and I guess this other song from Down on the Upside, which I never learned. So yeah. I had enough to learn during that period. I didn't learn everything, but I learned quite a bit. From Down on the Upside, we used to play Zero Chance, which I loved. God, I love that beautiful song. It's so melancholy and dark, but just gorgeous at the same time. There is no... gotta get the chills thinking about that song. It's like such a gorgeous song. Like, you know, Chris and his ability to make dark beautiful, you know. That song was it was all sewn up in that one. But we also did Ty Cobb. That was really fun. He'd always let me scream at the end. He'd stick the mic in my face. And he got a laugh out of that every time he did it. So he was a fun guy. You know, could be a pretty funny dude. What else did we do from Down on the Upside? Oh, of course we did Blow Up the Outside World. One of my favorite songs to play of all time, ever in my life. It was so cool. When we would lay into that chorus, oh, I'll give you everything I have, give you everything I own. And, you know, I'd just have my eyes closed and just be like, I am playing this song with this guy right now. I'd be really present. You know, and just like, this is so cool. Like, I loved every night that we played that tune. So much fun. But it's a great record, Down on the Upside. And of course, it has Overfloater and yeah. Anyway, just great songs on it. Oh, let's see. Do you still have the guitar that Chris gave you? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll never get rid of that. Love your channel. Here's my question after having COVID, retiring, and arthritis. How to get my playing mojo back? You know, I think just there's no substitute for cold hard practice. That's what I found. I need to sit there and just do it, you know. And I'm kind of going through that right now. I got to over the next 6 weeks do a lot of playing. So, you know, sit here and just kind of. It's like, I want to feel more loose on the next tour I do than I ever did. I want to feel more like my hands are in control and stuff. And I feel like I made headway with that, but I want to get better at it so that I can stretch a little more. And I feel like, well, what are you going to do I'm kind of facing the same thing. Like, what are you going to do that any different than what you've done for the last 30 years to get there? But I don't know. I'm kind of keeping a positive mind about it and just keeping my head in the game here that I think I can do it. By just sitting here and maybe just, you know, really working it, maybe more than I have in the past. Maybe like I make little strides towards that, you know. But also not overdoing it, you know, knowing when to take a break and stuff. But I think it's the consistency, man. I honestly do. I think it's every day, working it every day, not taking a day off, you know, every day playing and just really devoting some time to it. I know it's not much of an answer, I guess, but it's the best I can come up with. No substitute for the putting in the time, I guess, you know. Looking forward to 65 amps take on the Marshall circuit. That's interesting. So they're doing more stuff again? That's cool. I'm at 65. I know Dan. He's a good cat. And I still use their pedal, actually, their 65 booster. It's a Rangemaster style boost on my pedal board with Five for Fighting. Great sounding. How do you think the Scumbag BM75 would compare to a Slush and Creamback M65? Well, they're similar. The Scumbag, to be honest, man, I don't have any kind of knowledge of the latest sort of incarnations of Scumbag. Most of my experience with the Scumbag speakers was when he was having them made by... Who made them? Starts with a W. It's not Warehouse. Weber was making them when I was using them. Then they parted ways, and he started doing a lot of the production stuff himself, I think. This is Jim from Scumbag. And I don't really have any of the speakers from that era. All my stuff was the pre, you know, the Weber stuff. So I can't really give you an opinion about, you know, for at least going back 10 years, I've been back on Celestion and stuff and just using those. All I know is I enjoyed the M75 a lot. The BM75 is a bit more I think his take on the later 70s, the blackback sound. Now, if I had one here, I'd be able to, give you a good, because I have two 412s loaded with old blackbacks, late 70s blackbacks, and I love that speaker. So, and you've heard it in a good jillion of my videos. So, love it. But, I don't know. Seek out some videos and stuff and see what you hear, Creamback M65, good sounding speaker. I have it in one vertical, the 212, that you can see it right there. There's a old Marshall looking, the 45 back there in the corner. There's a 212 there that has two of those 65s in it. It's a good sounding cab. I like that cab. It sounded great in the video with that amp. That said, I like the 75 more. That's the speaker that we chose for, and I'm talking about the H95 Creamback. It's the speaker we chose for the horizontal PT212. And it sounded more balanced to me. Just lows to highs was all there. M65, a little more mid-rangey and, kind of just a little bit more nose on it. And a little more closed down on the top end and the bottom end, which you would expect from a smaller magnet speaker. But I don't know. It just sounded great in that cabinet, though. So maybe I do like it, and I need to spend a little more time with it, revisit it. I just don't have an opinion on that. I've never direct A-B'd with a BM75 and the Creamback 65. So if I had to guess, I'd guess the Creamback M65 would sound a little more MIDI and a little more through the middle than a BM75, especially if you get a BM75 with the paper voice coil. Those would be a little more old school, true sounding, I would think. Maybe. Just, if you have a 76 GMP 50, you'll be fine running that amp into a 412 with BM75s with paper voice coils, if he still makes that speaker. I had one of those, and that was a really cool, something about the paper voice coil. It just sounded like, they supposedly catch on fire if you put too much into them. But he's like, do not run, too much power into these or they will burn. So, but the paper voice coil thing, there was something to it. What was the other, the Nomex or some other kind of voice coil that is a little more durable. But I think there's a difference in sound a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Did you already? Oh, no, I didn't. Did you share your thoughts on the Beat Show? I did not. So, yeah, I went to the Beat Show, which is, of course, Tony Levin, Adrian Belew, Danny Carey from Tool, Steve Vai. And I saw it this week at it was the old Ace Hotel Theater in downtown LA. They call it something different now, like the Universal, what is it called? The Universal Theater or something? I don't know what it's called now. The United Theater on Broadway. I didn't realize that Ace Hotel had even been changed hands or whatever, but I guess it has. Don't not drink your coffee. Drink it. Anyway, brilliant show. Musically, fantastic. Vi was fantastic in the role, it sounded like a whole new band to me. It was great. Their interpretations of the King Crimson music was fantastic. But what I left feeling was like, these guys need to record new music. Like, it's a good band, like really good, and really cool to see Steve play with, and Adrian's an amazing guitar player. So the two of them together, it was like, and they're different. It was so cool. But, to see Steve in a band with singer again like that, it's been a minute since I've seen him play with a singer. It was great. And Tony was brilliant. Everybody was brilliant. It was so musically great. And, part of what makes it really work is Adrian is unbelievable. Like, singer, guitar player, voice just perfect. He's like 70, and he sounds like perfect singing. Perfect. Just the best, like as good as he's ever been. No joke. And his humor and stage presence, and banter, it's just brilliant. I met him after. I got to say hi to Steve after, and Danny, and Adrian was, it was great to see everybody. Adrian really struck me with his, we talked about the Beatles for, a good solid 10 minutes or something. He told me all about meeting Paul McCartney for the first time, Ringo Starr, and the funny things that he would say, and when they met and stuff. And he was just so lovely. Like, Adrian, what a guy! Like, golden. Just you couldn't ask to meet a nicer dude. And he's just, I've been listening to him since the since the 80s, of course, you know, because that I loved the Discipline album. I had that album when I was a kid, and it was really cool. So that's when I first became aware of him, I guess. Probably 83 or, you know, and I remember him on the cover of, he unveiled the guitar, the Mustang, you know, with the custom paint job and everything. And I remember him on the cover of Guitar Player magazine. And if you're asking me this question, you probably will know what I'm talking about, Richard. But that guitar, you know, and on the cover of Guitar Player, and it's like, oh, that's so cool looking. It was so 80s, like the paint on it almost looks like a nagel or something, you know. And it was just a little piece of history, you know. And so he pulled the sheet off of it or something. There was the guitar, and we went, ah, you know, there it is, you know. And then the guitar sort of needed its own introduction, but really great. And his tones, man, what cool guitar sounds! Like, just really interesting tones, 80s to the max. Just kind of like the, you know, just huge sounding too. Like really, really great. Anyway, can't say enough good things about it. It was a great night of music, and just really enjoyed it. Yep. Only 67 likes, says Richard. Hit the like button, people. Yeah, if you don't mind, hit the like button, folks. I gotta push this show a little bit more and keep it going, because I don't want to stop. I want to keep it going. I want to do more. Is that gig on YouTube? Which gig? Which one? Which one are we talking about now? I don't even know. Yeah. Jason Isbell's another one. Singer-songwriter, guitar badass. Totally. Yeah. Seems like a great guy, too. Super cool. Kim Mitchell? Absolutely Kim Mitchell. Gary Moore? Absolutely. Dave Grohl? Absolutely. Kotzen? Absolutely. Hetfield? Lukather? Great suggestions for badass frontman guitar players. Rory? Of course. Yeah. Let's see. What else we got here? What else? Yeah. Okay. Moving down through the chat. Be able to get out of bed in the morning. There's a super chat. I'm going to catch that in a second. Are there any delay reverb combo pedals you'd recommend that can rival Strymon, Timeline, and Big Sky? Source Audio has one that was really good. I'm going to space on the name of it right now, but it's easy to find. Only thing about it, just be careful of the headroom. It definitely wants to work at pedal level, I think. So it clips a bit if you were going to run like a hot line level signal into it. So, but a good pedal with delay and reverb built in. Strymon, I mean, you're asking for a pretty serious level. You know, try the Strymon, Timeline, and Big Sky. H90, you know, because you can do that level of killer vintage delay or tape delay or whatever, and then have a killer reverb algorithm, you know, full-fledged. I would say the H90 is probably the most fully capable. You want that level. There's other simple pedals like what's the Earthquaker one? They make a simple little blue and white one that does reverb delays pretty good. Wampler does a little bit of that stuff, the simple ones. But you're talking about rival Strymon, Timeline, and Big Sky. I would say the H90 is the primary one, and then the Source Audio. Yeah. And of course, you know, when we're talking about things this expensive, you can almost get into like, well, should I just be using an FM3 or something, or a quad Cortex, you know, to get a used one or something, and, you know, multi-effect sort of, it's a modeler, yes, but you can use them like a multi-effect too. That, yeah, so, yeah. DP says, I'm an engineer. That's an amazingly accurate observation. Which one? I forget what we were talking about. I totally spaced. But yeah. Yeah. There's Chris Clarkson. What's up, dude? Saw you the other day. Good to see you here. Chris and I were recently in Michigan and out at Sweetwater doing some clinics and stuff, and we'll do more of that coming up. We've got one to actually announce that we got that's going to be in the LA area. So if anybody's in LA, coming up in a little over a month. So I'll tell you more about that probably on next week's show. And we'll do more next year, I would think. Yeah. Inspired by the Tone Clinic. Okay, let's see. Super chat I got to grab there in a sec. I'll do that. Can you test and record video Big Sky multi-reverb plugin? I'm curious of your opinion about it. Is it similar to the Big Sky MX? I wonder, because I haven't, done anything with their plugins, but I'm sure it's the same algorithms and stuff. And I did a video just recently on the Big Sky MX, so I bet it's amazing. How's the new amp coming along? It's coming. John's just working on. He's got one other project to finish, and then he's moving over to that, I guess. So I'm not sure exactly when it's going to come, but I've learned that it doesn't help to get stressed out about it. So I'm just waiting till he's got time and stuff like that, and then we'll finish. But the design is all there, and the layout. I mean, he's done a lot of work on it, and it's just physically making it now. John's got a specific way of he really likes to have it very, 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 very planned in the virtual world, sort of, the circuit layout and everything, just the way that they work. He does everything, because it's a sophisticated product. So what we're going to end up with. So it's planning everything, circuit board wise and everything, getting it all laid out. That takes a long, long time. So that's kind of what he's done, but I believe it's kind of all done. And now it's just a question of physically, making something. So hopefully soon. Those guys are gearing up for, of course, it's almost NAMM time and all that. So they're working in that direction and a lot to do there. So it won't be there, I'll tell you that right now. But I do have something coming at NAMM that's going to be really fun. So get ready. Todd says, you have a lot of killer riffs and musical ideas in your demos from the past year at least. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I still really enjoy it. So building a riff library with your demos. Yeah. Thanks. Working on it. How about Adrian Ballou? Unbelievable. He is. He's a genius, musical genius, and a super sweet guy. Says, just want to say thanks for doing what you do. Sorry, just pick up my first guitar and lots of cool YouTube people. Hey, thanks, man. Enjoy the guitar journey. It's never ending. It's a deep well. Nice to have you here. There's LB from Italy. Greetings from Italy. Thank you. Good to see you here. It must be late over there for you. Or is it? It's not that late, I guess, right? Sort of. Did you ever try to create a demo, but the gear didn't inspire you? Couldn't figure out any good use for it? Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. No, I've sent things back. I mean, I've spent a day at least on things, or maybe a day and a half, and gone, you know what? Nope. And then I got to tell them. That always sucks, But I always say on my channel, people are like, oh, you make everything, whatever, sound the same or good or whatever. Or, you always say things are good. It's like, yeah, because I only do the stuff that sounds good, but you don't see the stuff that I decide to send back. If a major thing comes out, I mean, I'm not going to say every manufacturer sends me everything. That's not true. There's a lot of great stuff that I haven't done, but there's a lot of things where it's some new product come out and you might see it and then you might go well, there's no video by that guy. And maybe there's no video by some other guys that do the kind of thing I do. And you'd be like, maybe there's a reason for that. You can just sort of, answer your own question. Well, what I might think about something by, if I'm not doing it, and if maybe Rabia hasn't done it, and if, some other the usual suspects of knuckleheads like us, maybe we're like, don't get it. I don't get it. Or maybe the company just doesn't want to do any kind of promotion or whatever. I'm not suggesting that we've got some sort of monopoly on and you have to send it to us or it's not legit. I'm just saying that sometimes what happens is product goes out and then everybody kind of goes, I know, a few of these where it's people go yeah, it's kind of not for me. And then I'll talk to the other guys and go am I crazy? And they'll go, no, I couldn't do it. I just didn't get it. And I'll be like, okay, I'm not crazy. Yeah. So we live in a time of abundance of great guitar gear where, almost everything that comes out, if if it gets to production stage, it's probably pretty good. You know, there's not a lot of stuff that gets released that's a big deal, like big release, whatever, and it sucks. Like that just doesn't happen. Happened a lot in the 80s, you know, 70s. You know, you think about some of the like probably money behind, you know, big products that were like released and then like nothing. You know, it's like, you know, what comes to mind? I don't know. Certain amplifiers that like just never. I don't know. I don't want to, you know, bag on like, but like let's say Dean Markley amps or whatever. There was obviously like big ad campaigns and big, you know, and they were like going for a thing, and it just never really, or like Sundown amps, right? Or like, you know, used to see them in Guitar Player magazine. I'm like, what that's all about? What does that sound like? And then just never really caught on, or never really. Maybe they sounded good. I don't know, but maybe they didn't. You know. There's a lot of products like that just, you know, stuff that went by the wayside or whatever. But nowadays, if something gets to the stage where it's coming out and it's a big release or whatever, it's probably pretty vetted, is all I'm saying, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Maybe if you toured bleaker cities, I think this is a comment about when I was saying I just don't get inspired in hotel rooms. I want to go out and explore. Like Camden, East St. Louis, Gary, Kabul. Are you really going to put Kabul and Gary and East St. Louis in the same? Oh, man. Camden? Like Camden, like UK? Like Camden, like where Camden Lock is and all that? It's not so bad, no? It's one of my favorite pubs in London. Is that what you're talking about? Gary I've been to. Gary was gnarly. Yeah. Gary was like, I'll tell you about a gig I did in Gary. It was a playback gig where I was playing with these two guys on the Miss USA pageant. The Miss USA pageant. So we fly into Chicago and drive to Gary. And it's literally so by playback, I mean I'm miming, right? And you know, the band was miming. So I flew all the way from LA to go play air guitar, and the vocals were live. These guys I was playing with, I won't even tell you who it was, but the vocals were live. We're miming. Fly all the way to Chicago, get there, drive into Gary all together in the van. We're driving through Gary, and it looks like I like, oh my God, this town is like really rough, like super duper rough. Sorry if you live in Gary, but you know what I'm talking about. Basically like liquor stores and check cashing places, like every corner. Like that's all I saw driving through the downtown. It just looked really hollowed out and like a tough town. And then we get to this complex that's behind like barbed wire and like a fence and everything like that. And it's the new like convention center that they built in Gary. This is like 25 years ago, but they built a brand new convention center trying to kind of revitalize, like, you know, bring some business in. Obviously they'd scored the Miss USA pageant. So we drive into this compound that's like super protected in Gary. And I'm like, this is so weird. And we get in there and the hosts are Martha Stewart and William Shatner. So I remember they were there. And we get up on stage and we mime this song. And I just remember the stage being surrounded by 50 of the hottest chicks you've ever seen in your life. All in little black evening dresses. They were all wearing the same thing. And it was like, and I remember there was a little bit of like, somebody had a bottle of something. Like I remember there was a bit of like alcohol involved. And we were like, well, we're miming, so we might as well have a drink before the show. Doesn't really matter. So we were a little bit sauced and having a great time and just like staring at these girls playing this pop song in the middle of this like very like rough town, but in a brand new convention center with William Shatner and Martha Stewart over there. And we acted like we were playing, and then I think we went right back to the got a nighttime flight out of Chicago and flew back home. I think it was like literally like less than 24 hours. I was gone round trip. Yeah, this was before any of you knew me. Yeah. Anyway, saw YouTube the other day with you and Steve Stevens at the Aridium in New York City. Must have been 12 years ago. It was great. Thanks. Yeah, that was fun. This is fun. There's a little trip down memory lane today of some memories of... that feels like yesterday that we did that gig, but it was a long time ago. Sebastian Bach singing, Anton Fig on drums of of course, you know, legendary Letterman show fame. Neil, what's his last name? I'm forgetting, on bass, who played on Imagine by John Lennon. Amazing bass player. Can't believe I can't remember his name. Sorry, so disrespectful. Steve Stevens, myself, and we did we did Seasons of Wither by Aerosmith. Remember? The Aridium. It was like kind of supper club vibes, right? It's a classic club. And Sebastian, who's kind of crazy, you know. So of course we did I Remember You by Skid Row. in the Aridium, you know, it was interesting. And we did Hot for Teacher. What else did we do? I can't remember the rest of the set, but it was fun. Beating Around the Bush by AC/DC, maybe. It's interesting, but fun show. It's all on YouTube. Did you ever hang out with Floyd Rose? My niece heard is asking Chris Quinn. I would be interested in that as well. I've never met Floyd Rose before. Still active and doing stuff, right? Let's see. Is 8.5 pounds too heavy? Does weight matter if it's only used at home and in the studio? If it's a Les Paul, I think it's right in the zone, you know, of good weight. If it's a Strat, for whatever reason, we consider it heavy. You know, so I don't know why that is, but you know, if it's a bolt-on neck style 25.5 scale guitar, we always consider that to be on the upper end of, you know, but on a Les Paul, that's just right in comfortable weight. So I don't know, you know, I think it's fine. You know, I'd be more concerned about the tone, like if it's the sound you want, you know. In a Les Paul, I find if they go too light, there's no bottom end, I find, in general, you know. And the heavier you go, I find there's a more solid, you know. That's what I find with weight, generally. Your mileage may vary. I mean, some things could be a boat anchor and just be dead. But like my black Les Paul Custom is probably 10 pounds, and it's not super heavy, but it's bordering on. It's not like a 70s one where you're like, ooh, that's a boat anchor, totally, you know, maple neck and all that. But it definitely is on the slightly heavy side, or maybe it's 9 point something, you know, 9.8 or something pounds. That's what it feels like to me. I've never weighted, but that's just what it feels like. Compare that with my historic 59 Les Paul. It's, you know, lighter, but sounds more, or my Aaron, you know, they're airier and have more like, you know, that Telly on steroids thing, whereas the Les Paul Custom's always got this solid depth to it that I really like. And it's just a run-of-the-mill US Les Paul Custom. Good guitar. Oh, let's see. I've been on for about an hour and 41. I'm gonna go another 10, 15 minutes, and then I'll split and go get some other work done. I just hooked an IRJ to the wall, plugged in headphones and guitar, but I have a lot of noise. Probably just the gain. I mean, you got to be, you know, I know you, I'm not, you know, I know you were mentioning that you're a newish guitar player, but just be aware of the, like, so a few things. Like if you're not accustomed to high gain stuff is going to seem noisier. And depending on what you're sitting close to, sometimes lights or a computer, you know, different things can get in the pickups and create noise. So you just want to be aware of that. If you roll the volume all the way down on your guitar and it's quiet, and then you roll the volume up and there's buzz, that's generally just stuff that's in the air that's coming through the pickups. And the more gain you use, the more distortion you add on the unit itself, the more it's going to amplify that noise. Now, you might find by rotating in your chair, you're going to find a more quiet spot somewhere. And generally that quiet spot will be 180 degrees. Like there'll be one right here, and there'll be one right here. 180 degrees like apart, and you'll find the quietest place where you could sit. And that's just the physics of it all. But if you find that you've got your volume rolled all the way off on the guitar volume turned off, and there's noise like buzz or something, then there's something going on with ground or something, you know. Could be a bad cable or bad, you know, multiple different things. But if it's relatively quiet when the guitar is off and then there's just noise when you turn it up and you're using a high gain sound, fair amount of distortion, which the IRJ is capable of, that's just kind of that goes with the territory. And then, of course, with your hands off the guitar, there's more noise, and then you put your hands down, and the ground kind of kicks in and all that, and also no feedback and stuff. So, Didn't want to assume that you didn't know any of that stuff, but you did mention that you were kind of like newish to guitar and stuff. So it's just to be aware of and stuff. And part of the thing that we all kind of have to go through and learn when playing guitar is like getting control over noise and feedback and kind of errant noise, and like sometimes rolling the volume down on the guitar in a quiet passage of a song, if there's just hiss or any kind of ground buzz or whatever, and all that good stuff. So yeah. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. For live shows and rehearsals, says Richard, what would you like to see for a power amp that could be used with IR preamp pedal? Well, there's a couple things that are being developed, I think. That I heard a video the other day of the ISP one compared to some other ones, and I thought it sounded really... That's probably the best one I've heard in a small little ISP power amp. But... yeah, something that just sounds a little more like a tube amp would be great, a little more of that, got a little less mids, a little less hard sounding, a little more like big bottom, little nice top rise, that amps do. So I know of a few things that are coming in the down the pipeline, that it should be soon, relatively soon. Let's see. Which pedal do you like better, Mads one or Soldano pedal? What's Mads? I don't know what that is. I'm not sure. Yeah. How come audio interfaces don't have a 20 dB boost for line level inputs? I have a Korg synth that has a very weak line outs. The line inputs are almost useless and only has few preamp ins. Well, yeah, but you've got, generally speaking, like a -10 or +4, or sometimes like -15 and +4, right? You can switch interfaces through. So just go to the -10 setting. Don't think about it too much, Just put it in the other setting. Mic is generally -30. And then, consumer level, line level, or whatever they used to call it. I don't know why they called it that, but it was like -10, and then line level pro was +4. At least on my UA interface, I've got a couple of those different options. But you've also got a gain knob there where you can add some line gain. It's basically doing the same thing, So, just turn up the gain a little bit, and if your Korg synth, if they're calling it line outs, but it's weak, it's probably more sort of I would consider it more of an issue with the Korg than I would your audio interface, because line level is supposed to be +4 if they're calling it line level, But anyway, yeah, just put the thing at -10 and you'll get 14 dB more gain technically, if it has that option. Maybe on your interface you've only got the option of line and mic. But I doubt it. Would seem like there should be more. Get in your audio interfaces software and see if you can flip it to get some more gain out of it. Oh, yeah. What else we got here? New to the live stream. Few new people in here. Love that. Mr. Martinez, good to have you here. What do you guys think of the Mesa Badlander 25? Looking at the JJ Jr. also, Soundgarden tones are the end goal. Well, it's interesting. Soundgarden was primarily, I think, kind of, at least, early on, kind of martially. If we consider even when he was using PVs, the PV, I think didn't Kim use the Butcher or the VTM, which is really a Marshall, they're the Mississippi Marshalls, they used to call them. So, and then when we consider that Super Unknown was, I think, a 2203 or 4, and then blended with a dual rectifier, I think, both recorded at the same time with the tones blended and some sort of, I think Michael Beinhorn was big into blending those two amps, or generally blending amp tones. So you're kind of, with a Mesa and a JJ Jr. kind of Marshall and Mesa right there. So I would think a mini Recto and a JJ Jr. would be not saying you got to get both, because you're like, you know, but the two together would probably do a killer Soundgarden sound, you know, if you don't mind getting them both. Of course you do. You don't want to do that. Buy 2 amps. We're not made of money. But yeah, JJ Jr. is really great, you know, Marshall pushed, you know, either like straight up Marshall or Marshall pushed sounds. And of course the Mesa is going to be a little grindier and stuff. Badlander's cool, but you might want to look at the Mini Recto too, is all I'm saying for Soundgarden. This is that 90s thing, and it's part of that, you know. It's all that said, you know, Soundgarden guitar sounds are really interestingly, you know, even the guild I have here, the you know, I did a show with Kim Thale a while ago, and I've got one of his guild guitars here, and it's got a very unique sound. Those pickups in the guilds that he played. Chris used other stuff too, and Chris played a lot of the guitar in Soundgarden. But if we're talking about Kim, you know, those pickups the guitar's almost got like a single coil kind of quality to it, like with a lot of sort of, you know, the snap and some twang, and they're unique sounding. Guitar doesn't really sound like an SG to me. It's got its own thing with those electronics, so something to consider. Because a lot of Kim's sounds had this kind of like interesting, skinny, you know, he was a unique guy, guitar player, and with really cool tones. But anyway, it's so a lot of it's a mystery to me, you know. Some of the sounds are like, how did he get that? Like a lot of mid range are sort of snarly, you know what I mean, and kind of unique EQ curves and stuff. And who knows what it was, you know, that they were doing. So, yeah. Let's see here. Some good conversations going on in the chat amongst yourselves. Oh, there's a super chat. Let's grab that. Brand new IRJ, new guitar cordial cable and plugged in to wall. Unreal noise. Almost as loud as the guitar through headphones. Are you sure is it a speaker cable? You know, that's one thing that comes to mind. As long as it's a guitar cable, for sure. Unreal noise, almost as loud as the guitar through headphones. No, it's not normal. But it's hard to diagnose, you know. It might be something where you want to record a little video or something and send it to, you know, Friedman customer service or something, you know, email them and see if they can diagnose. It depends on the guitar. If you're in an exceptionally noisy, you know, like some environments are noisier than others, depending on what is going on where you are. So like there's more crap in the air, electromagnetic interference and stuff. And if you're playing a single coil guitar with a lot of gain and, you know, the sound, that stuff gets in the pickups, it can be like, yeah, it can be really noisy. So it just depends. You know, but yeah, we'd have to diagnose by hearing it to know exactly what's going on. Yeah. Baloo is a Beatles fanatic. He used to play Free as a Bird live without the new parts. That song's so great. The 90s new Beatles song. Yeah, we talked about Beatles quite a bit, and it was really interesting. Adrian's a legend, you know. So cool. Tony Levin's 78. Is he really? God, he was great. Man, music keeps people young. That's incredible, man. He was, I mean, he killed it. You know, he sounded amazing playing the Chapman stick and playing bass all night. He's kind of timeless looking, you know. He still looks the same as he ever did. And so does Adrian. So, Frame by Frame is Peak Blue. Yeah, that song is so unbelievable. They did a great version of it, too. It's kind of unique. It wasn't exactly like the record. Like, Steve's part and everything was really cool, and it was really, really neat. Very good, very good, very good. Yeah. I saw King Crimson in 86 at First Avenue. That's so cool. Minneapolis. Very cool. I bet that was great. Chris says, I'm so fired up to see it. Yeah, it's really fun, man. It's a good show. Steve's outfit was fantastic, too. Really good. What's my take on some of the new amps such as Driftwood with overdrive built in? I did a review of it. If you want to hear it, it's on my channel. I thought it was really good. Driftwood amp sounded great. Nice guy too, thoughtful, good design. It's not too complicated. Pretty cool. Yeah, some neat features. Well made, I would say. You know, he's a small operation, but it's good. I missed a super chat there. I'm gonna grab that in just a sec. Couple up there. Have you got any experience with arcane pickups? Yeah, I had a couple in my Scala underdog guitar for years, and they always sounded great. I think they were an Alnico 2 kind of humbucker, but Leo Scala wanted me to try some of his sort of new PAFE ones, and he put a set of double creams in it, so that's what it's got in it now. And he kept the old pickups, so I don't have the arcanes anymore. But they always sounded good to me, and the new pickups are great too, really cool. That's my only experience with them, was in that guitar though, and I used it on tour a lot. So you know, it was kind of my main guitar, at least in 2014 with Toshi Negabuchi. So I played those arcane pickups quite a bit. It was cool. They were PAFE, you know, they weren't super hot or anything like that. Source Audio Collider, that's the from Dan there. Thanks, Dan. That was the delay and reverb pedal from Source Audio. If you want to check it out. That I was mentioning. What else we got here? I missed you at Sweetwater. Had to be in Texas. Will you be back there again? I'm always there like once a year or so, and yeah, I hope so. Had a good time there for sure. So, yeah. See what else we got here. Your thoughts on George Marino and Sterling Sound? Sorry, I don't know anything about that. I don't. I should know more, but I don't. What else we got here? Let's see. Valve State amps, a dead loss. Well, I think they sold a lot of them. You know, there's a lot of them around. They were in every like rehearsal studio, and probably a lot of kids used them. You know, but yeah, Solid State and Valve State, Valve front end, Solid State back end. Oh, Camden, New Jersey, not Camden, like whatever in London. Camden, New Jersey. Got it. We were talking about towns earlier. Rough side of towns. Yeah, you were right about Gary. Rough. Yeah, Gary's pretty rough. It was rough, but interesting gig nonetheless. You can't even ride your bike through Camden. They'll come up and mug you by punching you off the bike. Really? That's not fun. We don't need that. Let's see here. Oh, please tell me you mimed with Shatner. I didn't even meet. I think I met him another time. I want to say I met Shatner at like a late night show that I was doing with Jewel or something. I think we got a picture with him, like the whole band I was with. I think I was playing with Jewel and the whole band, and him took a photo somewhere. But yeah, nothing beyond that. Let's see. I watched a video of Sebastian Bach singing with Triumph from when Phil X was in Triumph. That's interesting. Yeah, I remember that when Phil did that for a minute. I always forget that that he did that. That's pretty cool. Floyd Rose only hangs out in dive bars. That's a guitarist joke right there. I got another super chat there I got to grab. I guess I should probably go down and grab those because we're about almost 2 hours here. So I'm going to hit those. And Live to Play Guitar there. Thank you very much. Appreciate the super chat. Thank you. Todd Roy, the Mississippi Marshals. Yeah, that's what they used to call the Butcher and the VTM, you know, which the VTM is basically a Jose. And shh, don't tell anybody. But yeah, they're kind of, you know, the mods that were in there that you could kind of flip on via the little dip switches. Pretty Jose moddy. And a Butcher was kind of just like a 2204 or 3 or whatever. I think. Philip says he's late, but just want to say hi. That's okay, man. Thanks for being here. Killer Sunday Show videos this week. Hit the like. Please hit the like, folks. Hit the thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed yourself this week, and I'll be back next week to do more. Yeah, so videos this week, just finishing up the one for the Artifact here, which is fun. It's got a lot of neat, funky, lo-fi, tape warped vinyl, lo-fi reverb, lo-fi slap kind of sounds in it. And crazy warpy stuff where it'll grab what you're playing and turn it into something crazy. It does that too when you hold down this button on certain sounds. So this is a neat pedal. It's cool. Something different. Not the same. Nobody makes anything quite like this. If anything, it's kind of like the Destruction or whatever algorithm on the Mobius, where you can get in and do bit stuff and vinyl and warped sounds, which I love. I love all that stuff. For creating a mood, or for the middle of a track, or for doing something funny and making people laugh. It's a pretty neat pedal. So that's coming this week. What else? Tone Dexter, gonna get that going. Videos for like a whole bunch of other stuff. I've got stuff in the works like Crazy Tube Circuits, the Evertune guitar. Finally going to get that a video. They've been trying to get me to do a video to explain Evertune and show what it does for like a couple of years. So I'm going to do a video for the Evertune. What else have I got out there? Oh, some fun stuff from the Headrush people. Something from IK. I got so much to do. How am I going to get all this done and learn all the music I got to learn for tours too? It's a lot. Lots of fun stuff coming too for touring stuff in the new year. I might be very busy through summer. So from January through summer, it might be crazy. Maybe I won't be around here very much. I'll have to revamp what I do on YouTube and figure out something else to do on the road. But it's all good. It's all quality problems. I wouldn't call it problems. It's all good. Very exciting. So more to announce about that later, but or not. Maybe it all falls apart. We'll see, but I hope not. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great week. Be nice to one another out there. I really appreciate you all being here as always. Oh, there's one more super chat. I can't miss that. Sorry. While traveling on tour outside the U.S., do you ship gear like your guitars or take it on the plane ride? Good question. Thanks again, Peter, there for the super chat. As always, you're always here. Appreciate you, Peter Evans. Thank you, man. So this one, traveling outside the U.S., do you ship gear or take it on the plane ride? Sometimes both. I'll generally speaking ship most. This is at least the past few years. There's a shipment involved, where it all goes via a cargo company with a carnet, which a carnet is like a passport for your gear, basically. So that when you take gear out of the country into another country, then when it leaves to come back home, they can, cross-reference and manifest or whatever and make sure that everything's the same, so they know you didn't sell anything outside of the country and that nothing was exported or imported, that kind of thing. It's just like the gear that leaves is the gear that comes back, that kind of thing. So you cross your T's and dot your I's and all that stuff and do it right. So generally speaking, that happens. That's kind of like, my effects, my amps, my accessories, wireless, all that stuff, guitars. It all gets on a pallet, and it's palleted and it's sent a couple weeks before it needs to be there, or before the first show or first rehearsal or whatever. And I send it all off and hope that I see it on the other end, and it always generally works out. But that happens. But more often than not, I've got a guitar or two or maybe sometimes my pedal board, that I need for something else. And so I'll keep it behind, and then I'll end up flying with it as luggage, and you end up paying an extra $100 or $150 for excess bags and overweight and all that generally. But that all works out fine too. And yeah, good road cases are a must. I suggest Gator or SKB. The good molded SKB is the I series. I'm not sure what Gator calls their equivalent, but with big old latches and waterproof, and you can throw them off the top of a building. Your guitar will probably be fine. That kind of case. So that's what I use for the guitars when I'm flying. I have some old A&S cases and Dragon cases and other types of cases for my other guitars, but I don't generally fly those on planes these days. Generally the SKB I series or the Gator molded on an airplane if I'm doing that. Yeah. So almost every tour I've done in the last probably 5-6 years, I've always flown with a guitar and maybe my pedal board or something because I need to keep it behind for. It's always like let's take England in January when I go over to play. They'll be like, hey, we got to get your gear by like December, 21st, and I'll be like, there's just no way I can't by then. How about, and I always end up pushing it, and then it usually ends up going sometime around January 1st or 2nd. And then I need to have it there on the 7th, and it always works out. So it always seems to show up and get out of customs like the day before, I need it. And I kind of tend to cut it close sometimes with that, but the whole thing is you're not going to see your gear for when it ships, generally speaking, because customs and everything, when it's getting in another country, you want to leave a pretty good amount of time for. I just saw actually Nita Strauss playing down in Mexico had to cancel a gig maybe in Monterey or something. It was on Instagram this morning because their gear all got seized by customs going into the country, and didn't get out of customs in time to play. So that sucks. They're trying to get it out in time to do the other 2 gigs they've got there, I guess. But that's always a pain, when you're going there and you just don't know. But if you're on tour, it's hard because you got all your gear with you. What do you do, right? You're playing other shows and you're going down there for a couple of days to play and fly back up. Gear might not get through, So that's a concern. So you always want to kind of buffer, leave a few days there for customs and stuff like that if you can. Just a couple more things here. I guess I'll grab. That's thanks again for the super chat there. Let's see, Mr. Martinez, a bit overkill, but the ISP technologies. Hum extractor may help with noise. I had crazy hum from power lines across the street. This was the only thing that helped get rid of it. That's interesting. Was it not just ground loop? I'll have to look at that device. ISP hum extractor. It's interesting. I'll take a look at it. See what it is. Yeah. One more super chat there. Should get FM3 Mark II, or is the older iteration worth it? Use cases live as multi-effects with an amp and all-purpose device in the studio. I've got an FM3. I'm not sure mine is the Mark II. Might be the older one. It's fine, the older one I like. But I don't know the feature set on the newer one as compared. So sorry, I don't have a great answer for that. But long story short, a multi-effects, yeah, you can do 4 cable with them or an Axe effects, and they work great. I know they've got that new unit that's dedicated, to this sort of thing, just for effects, and it's less money. So, but if you need an all-arounder, yeah. James last year, for what it's worth, with Classic Rock Show, used a Axe effects Mark III, XFX 3 for his only effects device, and he used it 4 cable with an old Marshall, and then he loaded down the Marshall with a Boss Waza tube amp expander, and then used the effects post, on the Axe FX 3. So in other words, 4 cable. He's running it in front of the amp and post effects as well, all into a cabinet in mono, and it worked great. It sounded good. So yeah, you can totally make that work. And if you're kind of like, well, this kills 2 birds with 1 stone. I've got a great multi-effect, and I've also a great modeler for the studio. It'll totally do it. No reason why not. Don't be afraid. Oh, there's a whole bunch of super chats here. Sorry, guys. Been a minute jonesing for Soldano X88. Pros and cons versus Synergy or other options. I would say the X88, it covers a lot of ground. It gets even a little more Marshall-y than Soldano stuff in the past because of the tight switch, or the fat, rather. Allows you to tighten up the preamp a bit, which gives you, to my ears, a bit more of a Marshall voice. Bright switch on the crunch channel, as well as the fat switch to tighten things a little. When you turn both those on, it's like, oh, kind of modded Marshall now. So it's got a versatility to it. The clean channel is a great, straight up, American clean. You can hear it in the video I did for it. I thought it was really nice, and all the IR stuff is terrific and all that. So it's got all that built in. IR for recording and everything's really nice. Synergy, you're not going to have that built in, at least not on the latest, versions of whatever. Maybe later, but, I guess Synergy, the advantage would be you can change the modules and get different sounds. If it's going to offer down the road flexibility. as you get more modules and things. But you need to have a separate, source of speaker sim, IR and stuff. So the Soldano does strike me as a nice one-stop shop. Probably does just about everything you need in one unit. Now, one thing about Synergy, the Dr. Z module, the Z-Rec, or was that the one that I think that's the one that I did recently that had that phase inverter sort of emulation circuit built in. Really good, like really cool Voxy sounds. And that is something that is elusive in a lot of amps, a good Vox. So if you think that might be something that you could really use as a primary tone, something to consider as a pro for the, if we're talking about basically Synergy versus Soldano preamp here, that would be one thing. Like, yeah, I could, like 60% of the time I want to be on that Vox sound. Well, they've kind of got you covered there, I think, with that. That particular module sounds great for that AC30-ish stuff. So unique, it's a certain sound that can't get out of a lot of gear. So, in my opinion. So there you go. There's a bunch of, if you just want a good one-stop shop, and for recording as well as live, and you think you can use I could use a Fender Clean, some Marshall Lee Crunchy, and some Soldano lead. Well, might as well go that way, So, yeah, yeah. Okay. Great info. Said somebody I missed it there, but many thanks. Hey, great having you here. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to be here next week, same time, same place, having fun, talking about guitars, talking about amps, talking about effects, talking about modelers, talking about cats, talking about music, talking about whatever you want to talk about, except for a couple things that we don't touch here. All right, everybody have a terrific week. Be nice to one another. And, there's Ben Tom coming in at the end. Appreciate you. Having gratitude is making my life better. Oh, thanks, man. That's a great way to close out. I mean, me too. Yeah. Trying to live in the light these days and live in a state of gratitude. And I start my mornings every day now, I'll just say this, with Japanese, learning Japanese. It's a little bit of Ohayo gozaimasu and learning new Japanese words and phrases and stuff. And I love doing that for about an hour and a half every morning compared to anything else. Certainly looking at the news or any of that crap that you can start your day with that'll bum you out. Don't do anything that'll bum you out. Just work on something else. And no social media either. Except for this, if it's Sunday morning. But only positive social media. Pictures of cats and talk about guitars and amps and working on a new language. That's just been for my mental health. Oh my God, I can't even tell you guys. It's fantastic. I love it. So trying to be positive and learn things in the morning is really good. Can't recommend it high enough. All right, everybody have a great week and take care. See you guys soon. Over and out.